Yes, let's bring you some more on how the community is coping here in Australia with the ramifications and fallout of what we're seeing going on overseas in Israel. Joining us live now is Ginette Searle, Zionist Federation of Australia CEO. Ginette, thank you for your time, and firstly, condolences to your community on the loss of Sydney grandmother Galit Carbone. We've been reporting on her death today, the first Australian confirmed to have died in the conflict. We're all just really watching on in horror as details about her death emerge, along with those awful reports of executions, beheadings of children at a kibbutz near the Gaza border. It's just shocking, and I can only imagine how your community must be feeling seeing all of this today.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on. Yes, our community is reeling, and I think just when we think that the news couldn't get any worse, it gets worse. Our community is united in support of Israel, but right at this moment today, our community is united in grief. And I think that's the support that we're getting from across the board politically, from grassroots, from bipartisan, from everybody in our community is really holding us up in these very, very difficult days.
We know security has been ramped up at synagogues and Jewish schools. We've seen reports of parents keeping their children home or telling their kids not to wear school uniforms, which show what school they belong to. We're seeing these allegations have been reporting of in Melbourne and Sydney of Jewish people being harassed on the streets. Are you hearing those sorts of stories anecdotally? What is your sense of how the community is feeling in terms of security and safety?
We are really grateful, first of all, for the increased police presence where we see it in Melbourne and in Sydney. I work in the Jewish Community Centre. Our security protocols have been strengthened. Personally, I feel quite safe in our building. I feel quite safe on the streets, but it's not to say that people aren't scared and aren't anxious, particularly when we see things like the demonstrations that we saw the other evening in Sydney, where absolute anti-Semitic tropes that one would have expected to hear in Nazi Germany were chanted on the streets in Sydney in 2023. It defies understanding. And I think our community, at this point where we're anxious, where we're concerned, most people in our community have relatives or friends or people that they know in Israel and are worried and are in a state of heightened anxiety, of course. So when we see this on our own streets, of course, people are going to be more worried about their own security as well.
Ginette Searle, really appreciate you making the time for us. Thank you, and our condolences again as we just see further devastating news coming out of Israel today. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll stay with us after the break. Israeli-American family